Hi, and welcome to day 23. I just had recorded something and then it stopped. The screen went black because I'd never pressed record. So today, I'm several days behind. Today is day 23, and our verses of the day are James 2:16 and Luke 6:32 through 35. Our lettering is Child of the Most High God. So, I was just catching us up on a few things that Jesus' life was a constant display of grace, mercy, healing, compassion, bondage breaking, truth telling, and salvation giving. And that's what our lives should be examples of, because Jesus said to the disciples that, yeah, what I'm doing is great. In response, someone had said, oh, you're doing such good things. I think, and he was like, but you'll do greater things. So it's all for God's glory, and we need to live out his example that he had, that we should be a constant display of these things of grace and mercy, healing, compassion. We want to bondage break our friends out of darkness, like by using the power of God's blood. And we want to be truth-telling and salvation-giving. That is what will point people to God, and that's what God has a call on our lives for. Loves God's business, so that's our daily business. We want to, that's his will for us to live out love in our lives. And you'll see in Matthew 22:34 through 40, whenever we discuss those, that loving God and loving people, that you are called to God's business, and we're called to love. So, excuse me. So we want to bear fruit. That's how we glorify God. And sometimes the fruit that we bear, we won't necessarily be aware of it. But if we're daily in the Word and daily seeking God, and like filling up our spirit with God, it will be an automatic flow of the heart. Like what you put in is what you get out, and it'll be an overflow of that, because you'll just have a hard time not loving other people, because you see your own brokenness and your own unworthiness, and you'll feel empathy for others, because God's Spirit will rest in you, and he'll give you his heart for other people. So one thing that we're going to be talking about today is, who is our neighbor? It's not the person from radically different cultures on the other side of the world who's the hardest love, but the nearby neighbor whose language, rituals, values, ancestry, history, and customs are different from our own. So that's from Bible.org commentary, but neighbor in the Old English means to inhabitant who is near your habitation. So that's anyone who crosses your path is your neighbor. Just like we saw in the Good Samaritan story, that the person who stood up and helped the neighbor was the person who was least expected to. So just know that, like, your expectation is to reach out in love to others, and that's anyone who crosses your path that you see hurting. And a lot of people hide their hurts because they feel ashamed that they're hurting in that way. So just by being there and lending an ear to listen is a good way to help, because you never know what people will share when they feel like, when you've created a safe space for them, and like you can encourage them and watch them grow. And I know I have a couple of friends who like from the time I met them to now, like they're such a radically different thing, and I attribute that to God's power working in them, and just being there and being a good friend and watching like God work in that area. So So being a child of the Most High God, that means we are loved, and we can therefore sacrifice the things we love for something we love even more, and that's God's calling on our life. So God wants us to love each other as we want our children to love one another. Total unstoppable love. So that means, like, I think I've discussed this in one of the past videos, like, when you see your children playing, you want them to love each other and to get along and have a special connection with one another. And I think that's what God looks down at us, and he wants us to reach out to anyone who crosses our path in that way. He wants us to see us loving one another and creating community with one another in that way. And so just when you're like, and it can really speak to your own heart if you're feeling lonely or hurt, if you're reaching out to others, God gives what you give out. So reaching out to others in love, you will then in turn, it may not be from that person, but God will fill you up with the love that you need so that you can then again go out and carry out things in love. So don't feel like you don't have the strength or the love to love other people, because God will give you what you need when the time is right. If you just keep seeking him and glorifying him in it, then he will answer your prayers and be the love that you need so that you can love others. So thanks for joining me and my cat, and I'll see you tomorrow.